Meghan is at the bottom of the barrel.
In fact, I've seen the tapes. I've got them somewhere. God knows where now. I've got them on
so you've
some
seen
old...
Nudie Rudy Meghan too?
I've seen more than one thing.
They try to hide the files, and they fail.
2026 didn't ease in. It exploded online. Out of nowhere, new yacht photos dropped, and suddenly everyone's asking the same thing. Weren't these supposed to be gone forever? Meghan Markle is at the center again, but this time it feels different, louder, sharper, and way more intense.
Going on. And Meghan and all the things that she has done to, pull other people down and to question them and their behavior. Well, let's continue to turn the tables and talk about you, Miss Meghan Markle, and what you have done.
So what changed? And why now? These aren't recycled clips or those same blurry shots people argued about before. This is brand new material, never seen, hitting the internet all at once. And the energy shifted instantly. People aren't just reacting, they're dissecting. Because in these images, Meghan appears inside private, high-level spaces, the kind most people never even get close to. So how did she get there, and who was really around her?
I have to just say, anyone who has doubted me over the past decade about this evil woman now needs to eat some humble pie.
She's never fully explained this part of her past, but now voices from elite Middle Eastern circles are getting louder than ever. Some are claiming these images line up with what they've quietly believed for years. Not random appearances, not luck, but strategy. Were these moments carefully planned moves behind the scenes? Sources tied to Gulf elite networks are now suggesting she wasn't just attending events, she was moving with intention. Monaco, the Mediterranean, these aren't casual stops. These are controlled environments filled with power and influence. And getting access like that doesn't just happen.
The yacht girl. Oh my God. Ghislaine Maxwell spoke. She said so. Virginia Roberts spoke. They both talked about Meghan Markle, but the world chose to ignore it. And even now, with these pictures out in the public domain, the press still refuses to expose.
So who was opening those doors for her? The leaked photos reportedly show her at private yacht gatherings surrounded by powerful figures from Saudi Arabia and beyond. Not open parties, not public events, but tightly controlled circles. That's what's making people pause. Because if entry is that restricted, what does it say about her role in those rooms? Now, here's where it gets even more intense.
Key line there, and the line that really, really interested me, was not a question about whether she was a yacht girl, but just simply stating as a fact and then asking, was it double figures or triple in terms of how many yachts she was a guest on before she met Prince Harry?
These connections stayed quiet for years. No headlines, no major attention, just silence. And now, as Meghan pushes a polished image through Netflix deals and lifestyle branding, these photos suddenly resurface. Coincidence or calculated timing? Someone clearly wants this narrative back in the spotlight. The internet is locked on one question right now. Who leaked these images and why? Because this didn't trickle out slowly, it hit all at once. And when something drops like that, people start wondering what else is still hidden.
You have to question that, and you have to address it, and it has to be something that we continue to talk about, because there is something there that we need to find the missing pieces to, because I believe a lot of it was scrubbed off of the internet way before we even knew who Meghan Markle was.
Within hours, everything spiraled. #ShutUp. TikTok creators started breaking down every frame, and online detectives began connecting faces, locations, and timelines in real time. These weren't just pictures, they were clues. And the deeper people looked, the more questions came flooding in.
I want to ask Meghan Markle about her yacht girl past. To me, it feels like quite a significant moment. Because, of course, there is so much about Meghan Markle's time on those yachts that we do not know.
So if this is only what's been revealed so far, what's still waiting behind the curtain? Those photos didn't just go viral for no reason. They hit hard because they show a side of her story that's never really been addressed out loud. And this time, there's no blur, no guessing, no confusion.
And I wonder if Prince Andrew's going to come out and say, hey, Harry, I did your wife quite a few times on yachts before you got.
People are saying the images clearly place Meghan inside spaces she he's never publicly explained. So now the questions are getting sharper and way more uncomfortable. What was really happening in those rooms? The tone online has completely shifted. It's no longer casual debate, it's intense scrutiny. People are asking how someone at that stage in her acting career was moving through circles like that. Who was opening those doors, and why was it all kept so quiet for so long? Because according to sources tied to elite international networks, this isn't new to them. They've been hinting at this for years.
The reason why these pictures are so problematic for Meghan Markle is because these pictures place her with Jeffrey Epstein.
Now it gets deeper. Those same sources claim Meghan wasn't just attending yacht events for the experience. They say it was part of a structured networking world, a system built around proximity to power, where every move is calculated and every connection matters. This isn't about showing up, it's about positioning. So was she navigating that system intentionally?
Markle yacht girl claims simply will not go away. And you know I've spoken about this before, but until now, no one in the mainstream media has been brave enough to go there. Well, that has just changed.
An insider familiar with these environments broke it down clearly. These spaces revolve around relationships, image, and access, exclusive events, restricted locations, high-level introductions, and one major rule: discretion. Who you meet, why you're there, what gets discussed, none of that is meant to leave the room. This isn't casual social life, it's strategic networking with real influence behind it.
Being flown all over the world, the Suits cast members didn't understand where she got the money to fly business class all over the world.
Looking back at her early acting years, some now believe she fit that profile almost perfectly. Not widely known yet, but suddenly appearing in elite international settings that didn't match her public career level. And that kind of access usually doesn't happen alone. So who was backing her and why? People who understand these circles say entry is never random. Someone always makes the introduction. Someone vouches. Someone decides you belong there. That's how the system works, and insiders claim Meghan's presence followed that exact pattern. But here's where things take a turn. Some sources are now suggesting these newly leaked yacht photos didn't come from outsiders at all. They may have come from someone inside those same elite circles, someone who had direct access to those moments. And if that's true, this isn't just a leak, it's a message. So who would risk exposing it? And what's their motive? Because if one insider decided to reveal this much, what else are they still holding back?
This gentleman right here, that's Nick Jones, the original founder of Soho House. Guess where he's going there? He's arriving at Meghan Markle and Harry's wedding as guest of honor. Oh yeah, Soho was present. And I know what you're gonna say. Maybe it was just that one trip. No, there were quite a few trips. There's actually quite a lot of pictures about them. There are 2 pictures that leak.
These photos don't just show random moments. They place Meghan at private gatherings where Saudi and Gulf state figures were reportedly present at the exact same locations. For people watching closely, that kind of overlap doesn't look accidental. It feels structured. So how many of these meetings were actually planned behind the scenes? And now, the same names known for facilitating introductions between global power players are being brought up again in connection to these events. Think about how locked down these environments are. You don't just walk onto private yachts filled with royalty and billionaires. You're selected, invited, approved. That kind of access is controlled tightly. So who made the call to bring her in? What's pulling even more attention is how she appears in these images. She doesn't look out of place, not even slightly. There's confidence, ease, awareness, like she understood exactly how these spaces operated and what was expected of her. And that detail is hitting people hard right now because it suggests this wasn't new to her. So how long had she been moving like this?
Yes, there have been lots of scandals which have never come out, I'm told. And the palace have been able to shut them down. So I think the belief is that they can shut these scandals down. And it's only when the scandals emerge that they have to put Plan B into practice. So, and I think if that's the case, then that could be very damaging if that's around.
Sources are now speaking more openly, claiming those yacht years weren't just one-off encounters. They describe ongoing connections with individuals linked to Saudi and Gulf elite circles, not quick introductions, but continued access, travel, private events, discreet relationships that stayed completely off the radar. So how deep did those connections really go?
In my opinion, in my analysis, and my experience of decades, this kind of analysis, for me, is the real deal. If a photo such as this of Meghan Markle with Prince Andrew years ago surfaces, that will be quite an scandal.
And that's where it gets serious, because ongoing access like that isn't random. It signals consistency, planning, and trust within those networks. You don't get invited back again and again unless there's a reason. So what role was she actually playing in those circles? Now look at the timeline. This is where everything starts lining up. The images are reportedly dated between 2008 and 2012, back when she was still building her acting career in Los Angeles. But at the same time, these photos place her on luxury yachts in Monaco and across major Mediterranean hotspots around 2010, surrounded by serious wealth and influence. How do those two worlds connect? And here's the detail people can't ignore. The same Monaco locations keep showing up, the same type of closed, high-level environments, even the same facilitators tied to global business networks. That repetition is what's driving the conversation right now, because patterns like that don't happen by chance. So if all these dots are starting to connect, what bigger picture are people just beginning to see?
Of Jessica Reed Krause's House in Habit investigation into Meghan Markle's Yacht Girl past, which she has promised and has spent 6 years working on. And I am licking my lips in anticipation for when.
Then 2011 hits, and suddenly Meghan lands Suits. That's where people really start zooming in on the timeline, because it doesn't follow the usual Hollywood grind. No long trail of auditions, no clear climb. Industry voices have quietly questioned that jump for years, but now, with these photos resurfacing, that gap feels impossible to ignore. So what was really happening in those years leading up to that role?
This is Rachel Meghan Markle in 2006 at a Hamptons party where Harvey Weinstein was there. But of course, nobody was mentioning Meghan Markle because she was a no.
People are now asking if those earlier connections played a part behind the scenes, because jumps like that don't usually come out of nowhere. There's often someone backing it, guiding it.
Markle, I think she was 35 or 30 when she came into the royal family. She'd had a life, she was an actress, she'd been married before, so she was pretty much clued up. And I think what's happened is she's come into the royal family and this archaic system has tried to control her and say, you will do this, you will do that, you will not go here.
Opening doors quietly. And when you line that up with what these images suggest, it starts to feel less like luck and more like strategy. So who, if anyone, was helping move things forward?
She was coming to New York all the time. She was in New York when Andrew was in New York for an entire month in September 2013.
Then fast forward to 2016, Meghan meets Prince Harry through Marcus Anderson and Soho House, and suddenly everything starts connecting in a way that's hard to overlook. By that point, she wasn't new to elite spaces. She had already spent years around influence, wealth, and high-level networks. She knew how to move, how to present herself, how to build connections that mattered. Was that experience a key factor in what came next? To many watching this unfold, it doesn't feel random at all. It looks like something built step by step over time.
Trained actress, what she does is that she studies people. She's not a good actress, but she is a trained one, right? She's been doing it her entire life. And there was no doubt that she studied Princess Diana. She studied her mannerisms towards Harry when he was a boy and the way that she grabs her face. And this is the psychopathic elements of what she does, putting a pregnancy text next to Princess Diana's hair, saying that she put her hands on the grave to have a conversation with her, bursting.
The resurfaced photos seem to reinforce that idea. Multiple yacht appearances, different years, but the same level of people, the same kind of environments. That's not a one-off moment. That's repeated access. And repeated access like that usually means something deeper is going on. So what pattern are people really seeing here? Now here's where things take another turn, the timing of these photos. Meghan is currently focused on a polished rebrand, Netflix projects, lifestyle ventures, a carefully shaped public image, and right in the middle of that, these images drop and shift the entire conversation. Coincidence or something more deliberate?
Sussexes only will talk to people who repeat their own narrative.
Yes.
And who they can control. So the idea that you can get the truth from the Sussexes is contradictory.
A lot of people don't think this was random at all. They believe this was calculated, not rushed, not accidental, but released with purpose, which leads to the question that's getting louder by the second. Who would benefit from bringing this all back right now, and what's coming next? This is the kind of timing that hits the hardest, the kind that doesn't feel accidental at all. Some believe whoever had these photos waited patiently until it seemed like that chapter of Meghan's life was completely closed, buried in the past with nothing left to uncover. And then, out of nowhere, new images drop. The reaction?
The privacy laws are pretty strong here, and that's what she used as a weapon at the time. So there were quite a few things about her personal life. I'll work them into another book.
Instant and explosive. So was this planned down to the exact moment? To many watching, it doesn't feel random. It feels like a message. No direct statement, no explanation, just images that speak for themselves. And now, speculation is growing fast. What if this came from someone inside those same elite circles? Someone who didn't agree with how the story has been told publicly, or someone who decided it was time to show a different side. It could be personal, it could be strategic, it could even be someone trying to control what gets exposed next. Some think it's about protecting certain names before they get pulled into wider attention. Others believe it's about adding context that's been missing for years. But one thing most people agree on?
Knew that you wanted to go back to LA and that Canada was always going to be a pit stop. From the very beginning, this woman orchestrated leaving the royal family because all she's ever wanted in her life was to be an A-lister in Hollywood. She did not have the talent to become an A-lister in Hollywood. She was relegated to a D-list actress spot on a show called Suits that nobody in America had seen, but apparently, which Prince Harry.
This doesn't look rushed. It looks calculated. So who's really behind it? Because if these photos are surfacing now, years after those events, it suggests patience on another level. Someone held on to this material, waited, and chose the exact moment to release it. And now it's dragging attention right back to a part of her past that was never fully explained. Before, it was all talk, debates without proof. Now, people feel like they're finally seeing something real. But is it the full story? And here's what's making everything even louder.
I like to think that Meghan would like that. Meghan likes to be number one. Meghan does not simply degrade Prince Harry. She degrades his entire family, his entire legacy. And this is a different kind of embarrassment. She has mocked his heritage, his traditions, his grandmother, the former Queen of England, and it seems like she did so.
The silence. So far, there's been no direct response addressing these specific images. No clarification, no breakdown, no clear explanation of what's actually being shown, just quiet. And that silence, it's starting to speak just as loudly as the photos themselves. Is it strategy or something else?
I think she was scared of coming back to this country, and quite rightly, because the people of this country don't like the fact that she's stolen our prince. And she's literally brainwashed him, blinkered him, and tied him down to his California.
Some think it's a waiting game, letting the noise fade. Others see it as avoidance. Either way, it's keeping the conversation alive and growing every single day. Because if there was a simple explanation, wouldn't it already be out there? So now everything comes down to one question. What's really being left unsaid? There are still gaps in the story, and now people are starting to zero in on what's actually in front of them. These newly surfaced yacht photos from 2026 aren't just random images. They appear to place Meghan inside elite international settings during her early acting years. And that alone is enough to spark serious questions. Because if this is accurate, how did she get there in the first place? The first question hitting everyone is simple but heavy. Access and cost. Mediterranean yacht gatherings with global power figures aren't casual hangouts. They're extremely expensive and tightly controlled. So how was that level of entry possible at that stage of her career? That's not a minor detail. That's a major piece of the puzzle. So who made it happen? Then the focus shifts to something even tighter, entry itself. These aren't open invite events where anyone can walk in. Access is filtered, controlled, and usually depends on trusted introductions. That's where things start getting serious, because now people are asking who facilitated those moments, who vouched for her, who opened those doors behind the scenes. Next comes the nature of those connections, and this is where it gets even intense. The photos appear to show private, closed settings with a small circle of high-profile individuals. That suggests direct interaction, not superficial meetings, not quick encounters. So were these structured relationships or something else entirely? And then everything circles back to the timeline, the piece that's tying it all together. When you line it up, the shift stands out. Early acting struggles, then Suits, then connections through Soho House, then meeting Prince Harry, all following years of being present in elite international environments. That sequence is exactly why people keep asking the same question over and over. Who was opening those doors? Because if those earlier connections carried influence, how far did that impact actually reach?
Now comes the fifth question, and this is the one everyone keeps circling back to. Who is leaking these photos and why now? These images stayed hidden for over a decade, and suddenly, in 2026, they're everywhere, all at once. That kind of timing doesn't feel random to people watching closely. It feels like a choice, a calculated move. So who decided it was time to release them? These aren't wild theories anymore. They're direct questions sparked by what people can actually see. And what's pushing everything forward is the lack of clear answers. The silence is leaving space for more speculation, more pressure, more eyes digging deeper. So why hasn't anything been addressed head on? Now look at the timing again, because this is where it gets even sharper. Meghan is in the middle of a major rebrand, Netflix projects, lifestyle ventures, a push toward a more relatable public image. And right in the middle of that shift, these photos drop and redirect the entire conversation. They pull focus back to elite environments, high-level circles, and a very different kind of narrative. Coincidence or something more strategic? That's where the tension really builds, because people are now asking how these images fit into the story being presented publicly. How does this align with a journey built on hard work and persistence alone? For some, the contrast feels too strong to ignore. It raises the possibility that there were additional layers, strategic positioning, influential networks, things that were never fully highlighted. So what's missing from the full picture? To be clear, networking itself isn't unusual. A lot of industries run on connections. That part isn't shocking. What's drawing attention is the gap between that reality and the public narrative people have been told. And that gap, it's getting harder to overlook. So why does it feel like two different stories are colliding? Now here's where everything tightens even more. These leaks don't look recent. They look held onto. Someone may have had this material for years, watching, waiting, and choosing the exact moment to release it for maximum impact. And if that's true, this story isn't finished, not even close. Because once new images start surfacing, controlling the narrative becomes harder and harder. Every new photo adds another layer to a past that still hasn't been fully explained. So if this is what's already out, what's still waiting to be revealed next? There's one more angle that's impossible to ignore, and it changes everything. These elite international circles, especially those connected to Middle Eastern royalty and Gulf power figures, are known for one rule above all else: silence. What happens there, stays there. No leaks, no exposure, no questions. That's how it's always worked. So if images are surfacing now that seem to place Meghan inside those spaces, what changed? Because people aren't just focused on the photos, they're focused on the break in that silence. If sources are suddenly speaking more openly, if material like this is getting out, it suggests something shifted behind the scenes. Maybe it's a disconnect between the public story and what certain insiders claim to know. Maybe it's the pressure of growing attention. Different theories, same conclusion. The silence isn't holding like it used to. So who decided to let it crack? And in circles like that, discretion isn't optional, it's everything. Once that layer of protection starts slipping, it's almost impossible to rebuild. That's why this moment feels bigger than just a few images. It feels like the start of something. Because if people inside those environments are no longer staying quiet, what else could come out next? That's where the tension really spikes. More photos, more records, details nobody has seen before. Some believe this isn't a one-time leak, it's the first move. Because if someone released this much already, there's a strong chance they're holding more. And if that's true, this story is far from over. Now it starts to feel even more calculated. Some think whoever leaked these images is watching everything, tracking reactions, waiting for the perfect moment to drop the next wave. And that next wave might not just be photos. It could be travel records, event invites, or even first-hand accounts from people who were actually in those rooms. If that happens, how much deeper does this go? And look at the position this creates, because it's tight. Meghan now faces two difficult paths: stay silent and let the questions grow louder, or respond and bring even more attention to details that haven't been explained. Either way, the pressure doesn't disappear. In fact, it builds. So which move changes the outcome? Because right now, these yacht photos are doing more than trending. They're challenging parts of the story people thought they understood. They're pulling a whole chapter into the spotlight, one tied to high-level networking and elite access that hasn't been clearly addressed. And once that door is open, it's hard to close. So now everything comes down to one heavy question. Do more come out, or does it stop here? Because if these images really came from private collections released by someone with insider knowledge and perfect timing, then this might only be the beginning. And with no clear response, no added context, just silence as the conversation keeps growing, everyone is watching, waiting, and asking the same thing. What happens next?